Hey, Rent to Retires, it's Adam Schroeder here with another episode, joined as usual by founder and CEO of Rent to Retirement, Zach Lemaster. And we are incredibly pleased to have with us someone who's double dipped in Rent to Retirement as both an investor and an Academy member, and that is Dennis. So, Dennis, thanks for joining us today.
Well, the pleasure's mine. I really do appreciate it. It's kind of weird being on this side of things because, usually I'm watching videos with you guys and somebody else or just you two together. So a little weird, a little awkward being on the podcast with you.
Well, you'll have to watch it yourself later, and then it'll feel like feel like normal, maybe a little bit of deja vu too.
Mm-hmm.
So start us off. How did you find Rent to Retirement initially, and kind of just tell people a little bit about kind of your first encounter with us.
Okay. I'll just go a little bit further back and then kind of tell you my catalyst with all of this.
Okay. Yeah, and even intro just to like real estate in general, right? I'd love to hear about that before just like why real estate, what brought you, all the
Gotcha. So, and I wasn't planning on going this far back, but I will say that I did have two other properties. They were both primaries. I moved out of one and I sold it. It was up in Maryland. That was a horrible idea. I should have waited like 2 years and it would have been probably double, but it's like one of those things, you gotta stop looking in the past, right? Because you're just going to beat yourself up. But this year, after I did my taxes, so I moved to South Carolina recently, just a year and a half ago, and for a job. I was in North Carolina previous to that. And as I'm, and the pay was really good, everybody was on board, like, okay, let's go do this. It looks great little area. And then the tax return came, and that was the big thing. That really was the catalyst. Once I saw how much taxes I was paying, and it was a significant amount of money throughout the year, and then I still had to pay $6,000 to the IRS at when I did my return. So it's like I'm paying so much money throughout the year. Then I got this. So really, that was the catalyst of this whole process. So like in February, I said, okay, let me start kind of working through this, what I can do. How can I? So my knee-jerk reaction right away was to say, okay, I'm going to have them take out more taxes, right? So that was the knee-jerk reaction. Let them take out more taxes so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, and then at the end of the year, maybe I break even or whatever else. But then I started kind of looking around the internet, kind of like this is something that I do. I like to analyze things. I like to research stuff, and came across, some real estate information. I found Bigger Pockets. That was where I found you guys eventually, right? But then I just like probably just about everybody, I got to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? So that was the phase one of my journey, which was the mindset change, right? Because we always talk about that mindset change. One of the things, and I go back to some of those failures that I was talking about before, like just selling houses and not renting them out or whatever else. But one of the things in Rich Dad Poor Dad that he said was, he describes like the Alamo, right? He talks about remember the Alamo, basically saying like, don't bury your failures, but get inspired by them. Right. And that was something that I was like, okay, you know what? Okay. I could have started this journey 10 years ago, but I kind of didn't do things right. And I'm just going to put that under the rug and move forward. So that was kind of the first phase. And the second phase was networking and learning. And that's when I found Rent to Retirement. So I started off with networking, just like, with random folks that I was finding on the internet. It's totally out of my comfort zone. Like I did not think it was something that I could do, but started networking with a few folks. There's one guy in particular that I started talking with. His name is Frank, and he goes by Old Guy REI. On YouTube. And his story was pretty inspirational because he came from a failed investing in the past. He went bankrupt and then started anew, and his wife allowed him in his 60s. So he just started all over again in his 60s, and I think he's up to like eight properties right now. So maybe he doesn't have like a retirement necessarily, or he's not going to see maybe as much appreciation, things like that, but he's going to have that cash flow now where he can get out of his job and he can just live on that. So I kind of realized, let go of those failures, just focus on now.
Are you a landlord, or are you interested in becoming a landlord? Then you should know that there's a tool that can help you with every step of the landlording process, Avail. Avail was created specifically for do-it-yourself landlords and has everything you need to manage your rentals efficiently. With Avail, you can post your listing with one click on all the top rental websites so you can find tenants fast. You can also review applications online and screen tenants using reliable TransUnion reports. Avail even offers state-specific lawyer-approved leases and hassle-free online rent collection. And your tenants can still choose their preferred method of payment. Even if you're not a pro, Avail can make you look like one. Sign up at avail.co/rent-to-retirement. That's avail.co/rent-to-retirement, and start landlording like a pro today. And now, when you sold your primary originally, was it because you didn't even think about, holding it as a rental? Were you afraid to hold it as a rental? And what was the thought process that was going on that led you to sell it?
Pretty much because I felt like I couldn't do it. So I was a landlord for a short amount of time, maybe about a year, and I was losing money on it. And the property manager was not great, but I didn't know how to vet them. I didn't know what questions to ask, and that's all stuff I learned in the Rent-to-Retirement Academy. So I felt like I didn't have the necessary skills to really be somebody that was going to do that. And I wanted to get another home in North Carolina, so decided to sell the one in Maryland. The real estate agent everything pretty much went wrong. Real estate agent was bad. Property manager was bad. I was bad, so maybe that was part of the whole thing too. But I think I made $2,000 on that house. It was not great. But that's and the reason I sold my last one was had a pool, and I just didn't feel like renting my house with a pool. I just didn't know if that was a good thing. I feel like if I would have known what I know now, I would have figured it out. I would have rented it out because I really love that house. We finally got a pool after 25 years of wanting a pool, and we had it for a year and then sold the house. So that was tough for my kids and for my wife and for me too.
Well, it's all too common, Dennis, that like the first deal is not the ideal investment, or there's many things that go wrong. Like we all experience that, and that's part of learning. I love the fact that you talked about learning from your failures and your mistakes, because like that's part of the journey, right? Real estate, there's just like any investment, there's going to be ups and downs and challenges. Like there is no perfect investment out there, but if you can just stay the course and stay focused, I know we'll talk about that as well. Like we truly believe that real estate is the most predictable path to wealth. And, there's all sorts of quotes out there about people building wealth predictably through real estate. But I guess you felt inspired by, you found old guy REI, and I felt a little bit inspired. And I think that goes to show like it's never too late to start.
Right.
And you don't need 1,000 doors, right? Like 8 properties can make a significant difference. One thing that I've learned through our own journey and watching people and working with people invest is like, you can make a significant impact on your financial position, whatever that is, not overnight, but also not in a lifetime. In like a shorter period of time, you can make a dramatic impact. If you stay focused, you take action, and you consistently do that over time, which you're doing now, which is great. I'm curious to hear about so you just kind of like why real estate? Because you talked about these taxes are painful, which they certainly are, and you follow our stuff, so we talk about this all the time. But was it just taxes? I mean, you had a little bit of experience in real estate. It didn't go great. You realized you're paying more taxes, but like, what was really the catalyst to say, I want to get like back into real estate? There's maybe some tax benefits. Like what else kind of appealed to you about starting that journey of really like buckling down and getting that investment portfolio started?
I think the biggest thing, besides the taxes, was I don't consider myself super old, but I'm in my mid 40s. I'm 45. So, and like I said, my youngest is 10, so she'll be out of high school in 7 years. And I think as I was looking at this and researching it and analyzing it, it just seemed like it was something that could really provide a big impact to my lifestyle, leaving a W-2 within 5 to 7 years, maybe 10. My goal is kind of 5 to 7. But I think that was the big, just kind of reading some of the books that I've read and going down the list of pros and cons. It just seemed like there was very little cons when it came to real estate. It's a lot of positive, not only benefits to it, but I have found that for the most part, and I can't remember if we talked about this, Zach, or not, in a messaging on Bigger Pockets or not, but for the most part, because there's a couple people, everybody is really, really encouraging. Everybody is really, because there were some people on Bigger Pockets forum that were a little annoying and frustrating.
You mean there's people online that are frustrated?
But, really, when we talk about people online, all these strangers that I'm talking to, like we go back to old guy REI, he does an accountability meeting. So that's still part of my networking. Every Wednesday, he does an accountability meeting, so we go on, we talk. It started off with probably, I don't know, 3 or 4. And now it's, upwards of, a couple dozen, 3 dozen, something like that. And, a lot of the people that I've come across, and probably all of them within these accountability groups, they're just awesome people. And they have all kinds of different backgrounds. And I love that. There's so much that we have in common that we let a lot of things, kind of divide us, in the world. But I've just really appreciated the people within the real estate investing community. They try not to bring, any kind of stuff to the table that's going to like divide folks. They just want to show you what they've learned, learn from their failures, just encourage you to continue on and to do things like that. So this is so weird. I don't even know, this is like a weird segue, but I do jujitsu. And it's very similar to that particular community. Like, you go on the mat, it doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, what religion you are, what your background is or anything like that. You're just there to train. You're just there to train with folks. They encourage you. They're there to be your brothers and your sisters outside of your house. So I love that about the real estate community.
Yeah, that's awesome. We call that the abundance mindset, and not everyone has it, but regardless of your experience level, if you find and seek the right community of people, all tides rise together. You know what I mean? And supporting, because there's always someone ahead of you and there's always someone behind you, right? And you can connecting with both those people, I think is really important. That's great to hear.
I don't think I answered your question exactly. So I was just thinking about that. So really, I just want to be able to get to the point where I can leave my W-2, but I'm not looking to leave soon. We always hear real estate investing is not a get rich quick fan or get rich quick plan, but unless you think 10 years is quick, and really 10 years is quick. It's very quick when you're considering, sitting in a job for 40 years. and putting a whole bunch of money in a 401k and then how much return are you really getting? 10 years is not long at all.
Preach, Dennis, preach. We that's awesome, man. I love it, and I share the same philosophy. It's 10 years goes by like that, right? And so that's why it's so important to start eventually. So many people just delay. People sit on sidelines for 10 years, and you could have accomplished a lot in that time frame, but you just got to get started at some point.
Are you a real estate investor tired of juggling dozens of accounts across multiple banks? It's a headache, right? Well, meet Release, the modern real estate banking platform designed just for you. With Release, you can manage all your financial accounts in one place. No more logging into individual banks. Easily view balances and seamlessly transfer funds across banks. all from a single dashboard. No need to switch banks. Set up cash monitoring to automatically sweep excess cash into high-yield accounts. Get free wires and ACH transfers, plus up to $5 million in FDIC insurance through Release's partner bank. Ready to simplify your finances? Apply for a Release account today. It's free and takes less than 5 minutes. Say goodbye to the hassle of managing multiple logins and hello to streamlined banking for real estate investors. Get started with Release today. Visit tryrelease.com. That's TRYRelease.com to get started. Release is a financial technology company and not a bank. Banking services provided by Regent, member FDIC.
So let's talk about you getting started. You started to peruse BiggerPockets and get, familiar with these different communities, which is great. You read the books and, all the things. So that's great. But then it came to you actually taking action. We obviously connected, but what did, not to plug us too much, but you're on with us. So let's talk about Rent to Retirement, because you're an Academy member. You chose to join the Academy before closing on your first property. What was the direction there? Let's talk about what was the impetus for you to do that and how that kind of experience has been going through that process.
I think the big thing was the ability to kind of tap into several different areas of the real estate community. So Rent to Retirement you guys kind of have everything. You have your hands everywhere. You have points of contact. Your networking is really robust. And really the turnkey is very, some people are against turnkey. They're like, oh, you got to pay a premium price and everything. I'm like, but there's so much that's been done for you already. There's so much value with the whole, you should still look at your numbers. You should still analyze your numbers, but they've done so much work for you. And, you almost don't have to, it's actually kind of hard to find an area. It's sort of hard to find a buy box. I mean, you could start with one somewhere where you live or wherever else, but you really got to do like 30 days of work before if that's a good area or not. And then, okay, you come to 30 days and you're like, oh, well, this isn't a good area. Let me move over to this area. And then you do another 30 days of analysis. So to me, it was, and I was getting stuck in that analysis paralysis. I had learned how to analyze properties and look at a buy box every day and be disciplined with that. But, it got to the point where, I was getting a little unfocused and things like that. I was going back and forth, like, looking at different things, but I always would come back to the Academy because it just helped me focus so well. Like I was saying earlier, it was organized really well, and it started off, with the easy stuff. I didn't even know acronyms. I think if I remember correctly, we even that was even one of the homework assignments, right? Was like, write down things that you've learned, or acronyms or definitions of certain things. What's a new word that you've learned or something. So, it starts off simple, but it gets in deep and a lot of things. And I absolutely love the webinars. So I have skipped several times with the modules. I'll go down to the webinars because there's just so much great information in there. When it comes to like self-directed IRAs and insurance and whole life insurance and how you can leverage that. There's just such an amazing amount of content in there. And I think I'm answering the question. Sometimes I ramble.
Yeah, let's dive a little bit deeper into that, because so we have an educational platform. It's kind of a self-study course. It's an online. I think there's something like 60 or 80 modules of education that myself teaches as an Adam, and we have, like 30 other subject matter experts that come in. And really the goal is to go through beginning education, real estate, all the way through really really advanced. So you come out of that. And the ideal scenario, which you are doing, is to go through that while buying your first property. You don't have to though, but going through that, really the idea is that you come out of that a more sophisticated, savvy investor that will help you expedite your success. And that's not required, right? You can invest with us and through our network without doing that. But many people have found that it's helped them really give them a structured plan. And I do think it helps them come out with a a really solid mindset and strategy and understanding of like the core concepts that you really need to, which you probably learn over time, but shortening that learning curve, I think, is the goal. Let me ask you though, why did you decide to join the academy before buying the first property? Was it just you needed some direction and understanding, or like what was the reason for that?
I mean, I think that's definitely one of the reasons. Like I said, I started to learn how to analyze a buy box, and there was a couple other folks I was talking to in another course that I had bought. So, but I think it kind of goes back. It still goes back to the turnkey. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I sort of knew what to expect in the academy because, I attended like one of your like seminars, kind of talking about it and things like that. But I really was more interested in the turnkey part, like, okay, I don't know anything about how to fix stuff. I don't know anything about, how to flip. I don't, I even at one point when I was in this like whole going crazy, looking at all kinds of stuff, I was looking at like tax deeds and tax liens and there was just so much stuff. And it was overwhelming, really, to be honest. And that's why, when I got into the academy, I mean, I think, yes, I needed some sort of direction. I needed some sort of medium that would make me focus on buying a property, learning, and then buying a property. And I really liked the idea of, just going through it and trying your best, almost like, put a deadline on yourself, really. I mean, you don't have to buy one, within, 90 days or however long it takes you to do the course. But I like to have those kind of deadlines because I was finding that I was in analysis paralysis, and Rent to Retirement, the academy, completely helped me get out of that because I was stuck in Memphis. That was where my buy box was. I knew the zip codes, two of them in particular, 38111 and 3811122. I knew them great. I knew them probably better than most people that lived in Memphis. But I just kept getting into this rut of, I got to find a better deal. Oh, here's a good one. Let me just wait a little bit longer and see if I can find a better one. And, I just kept doing that. And, I put in a few offers, but none were accepted. And, I got close on one, but so I broke out of that paralysis with the turnkey model. I broke out of there with the Rent to Retirement. I went deep into Rent to Retirement and just said, you know what, I'm going to get a house from here, period. That's what I said to myself. I was like, I'm just going to get something from here. That's it. I'm not going to mess around with this whole, paralysis thing anymore.
That is such a common starting point in obstacle that people face. Not only the analysis paralysis, but it's also mixed in with the shiny object syndrome of like, real estate's a broad category. There's 1,000 different things you can do, right? And especially starting out, I think so many people look at all those things, and it's exciting to learn, but then they end up spending so much time not accomplishing anything, and they're looking for this needle in the haystack, like perfect deal. The reality is like so much time is spent doing that. It's like if you just stayed focused on at least one thing and got a deal done, just a base hit, a general deal, that doesn't mean that's your end all be all and that's how you're always going to invest. You could go back and revisit that in Memphis later, right, at a later date, but it's all about just getting an action step done. And that's the way that I look at the academy. Is like, it's an action step. Yes, it's full of education and things like this, but it's an action step that's going to give you some direction. And that's great to see that was certainly the case with you, which led you to close your first deal recently, which we want to talk about as right. Well.
The other thing to think about too with that is I was doing that not only to get into real estate or anything like that, but I needed to buy something to learn. Like I needed to get into, because you're not going to learn anything. You can learn plenty of stuff when you're studying or research and everything but until you actually do it, you're not going to learn as much as you need to.
Yeah, I love that you said, you're talking about kind of finding the deals. It's something that we've talked about on the show before, and I want to keep hammering home to people, and that is that you do your analysis, you find the right property or find the good property right then, you go under contract on it, and then for the love of all that's good, stop looking at other properties for a little while. because you find one and you say, oh, this has $10 more cash flow a month, or this one has $15 more. And you start questioning why you did the original one. Like, oh, should I just switch to this one? And the answer is no. You're buying this one for a particular reason, right? And it's going to be a good one. So just ride with that one, because you never know exactly if the other one's going to be, really $10 or $15 more, or how that's going to be. You bought this one for the good fundamentals. And you mentioned kind of the mindset. You closed fairly recently. Have you felt that mindset shift yet inside you that you get whenever you become, whenever you actually own an investment property that you purchase specifically for that reason?
It still feels a little surreal, I guess. Yeah, I don't know that I don't have a renter yet. We're pretty close though, I think. And so I don't necessarily feel, although I've been doing a lot of paperwork and, doing stuff for utilities and all this other stuff. So I guess I do have the feeling of a landlord when it comes to like paperwork and stuff like that, but it is a little surreal still. I am more in the mindset of, I'm going to do this than my family is. My family's, they're just like, this is like a pie in the sky type thing for them. My wife still thinks I'm weird for talking to strangers online and stuff like that. But I try to explain to her, I'm like, this is part of the networking process. And a lot of us know, probably Zach knows really well too, is like, that was the big thing, like when you're transitioning, right? Transitioning out of the military is networking. Like that was the main thing that you probably should have spent most of your time on, because that is what you're going to get the most dividend from, really.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I forget what the preparatory course they make you go through as you exit. But it's just like, it's funny. It's just like school, right? That's not really the things that really prepare you. That's got to be self-led. You got to initiate and take the action and get outside your comfort zone to do those things. So I certainly agree with you on that. And it's a mind shift, and it doesn't always set in right away. But like when I'm buying properties and I'm looking at things, man, I don't know if I should say this, but the analysis I do now is actually less. Maybe because I'm more efficient with it and I have people that help me do the analysis. But like I'm buying a specific, I got a buy box that's generally specific, but I'm buying for a specific reason. I'm buying this for this reason, whether it's tax benefit or I'm doing a long-term rental or short-term rental. And when I find something, man, that's like almost a little bit of a relief too. It's like, okay, I'm done. On to the next, right? And you're just on to the next. And focusing on growing versus, I don't even look so much at if I have an underperforming property, I probably think about that, unless it's a big deal, but I probably think about that 10 minutes a month when I'm reviewing it and just reevaluating. Do I need to do something with this, or is this just, part of the game? And I mean, it's a mind shift change of learning how about real estate, learning how to acquire real estate, acquiring real estate, and then learning how to think about your real estate, right? And just to kind of think about money in general and growing a portfolio. And you start to think, I think, over time about the bigger things that actually matter. You're supposed to invest in real estate to buy back some of your time, and that doesn't happen immediately. But like if your mind is always distracted and in it, you're not really doing yourself a favor by buying yourself that kind of mental freedom. So I don't know. I digress. But Dennis, let's talk about that first deal. So you recently closed just this month on a property. So congrats on that. I don't know how much, you don't have to share any personal details on this, but let's at least talk about like identification of that first property, why you chose it, maybe some obstacles you encountered, because there always is some, and how you overcame those. Like just share that first buying experience.
Sure. So the reason why I picked like the Akron area is because, just kind of talking with Tommy and hearing some of the videos with you guys, it just seemed like that was I don't want to say the most legit, because that's not the right word, but it seemed to be like one of the better property managers, one of the better flippers, like been working with them for a long time, and they're kind of, really, they're known really well by rent to retirement. So I think that was the main reason I decided on Ohio. And, at the price point, I guess was probably another thing too. It's a lower price point, right? And that was, those are probably two of the top things that made me kind of focus towards Akron or Ohio in general. I wouldn't have mind getting something in Canton because I kind of hear like the NFL or the Pro Football Hall of Fame is like doing some crazy stuff within the next couple of years. So I might look in that area. I know every so often you see one in Canton. So there's but I heard that they're going to be doing, like building all, multi-million.
A lot of money going in there.
Yeah, there's a lot. So, I mean, that could even be a good short-term rental, I think, area right there because a lot of people probably be coming in for that. But some of the obstacles, or maybe not an obstacle, but a lesson learned for me was pick up the phone. So I am very much into texting and email, and I like to have historical stuff I can look back at. So that's why I kind of like those types of things. But I have found that I was struggling with a property manager in Ohio. Like we were just not maybe on the same sheet of music. And I'm like, that's so weird because I've heard such great things about him. And, the one that is selling it, he was great. Like he got back to me at all times of the night, within a couple minutes, a lot of times. So he was awesome. And then I got to the property manager and things were kind of slowed down. Well, it turns out a lot of my emails were going to spam. Somebody was out and I had the wrong email. And I'm trying to think if there was another thing. There was some other issue, right? So finally, I just picked up the phone and called them, and everything was fine after that. Like we figured everything out. We were like, okay, so now we know like it's going to spam. We're gonna put you in our address book, all this other stuff. So, that was a lesson learned for me because I was getting frustrated. I was like, what is going on here? I don't want to start off on a bad foot or anything like that. But so pick up the phone, call somebody because you can't get intent or tone of voice over texting, and at least not very well, or over email. So actually having a conversation with somebody on the phone is very helpful. And that was one of my lessons learned.
Yeah, I think that, we talk about it all the time, but it's communication, right? In business, especially when you're investing out of state in an area that you may have never seen and you're working with a new team, communication is key. But communication is both ways. There's a lot of investors that, similar to your situation, and we hear about it, there's some gap in communication and they're frustrated, and then, they're frustrated with us or at us or the local teams or whatever the case is. And it's like, all you have to do is, like you said, pick up the phone, make us aware of the situation so we can help you deal with it, or better yet, call the people that are managing the property, right? Like figure it out and just communicate that up. Don't sit there and fester on it and, pull your hair out because you're not getting communication. Like, and there's no reference there, Dennis, but it's about like, communication is both ways, guys. And that solves a lot of things, like, in business in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, Adam. I know I'm cutting you off.
Oh, I was going to ask, now that you're, now that you've got this kind of, and now that you're going through the academy and everything, what's your next step? Like, what's your plan for the future?
Well, I think I would like to stay in the Ohio market. I think it makes sense to kind of build there for a little bit. Maybe it's 3 houses, maybe it's 4, whatever it is, before moving somewhere else if I want to, kind of diversify in a sense. But I'm sort of interested in the short-term rental as well. And there was a couple times when I saw some of the properties on Rent to Retirement, they had like a short-term rental piece to them. But that's something, and I'll tell you why that has kind of piqued my interest. It really was only recently, is because I've had a very tough time getting my wife on board, and she's on board. She'll sign paperwork and stuff like that, but other than that, she doesn't want to like watch videos. She doesn't want to learn how to analyze or anything like that. But she came to me a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, it'd be really cool if we had because we go to Airbnbs all the time, like we're always using them. She'd be like, it'd be really cool if we had a short-term rental somewhere, like that we like to vacation or something like that. So that kind of got me thinking, like, maybe I should start looking into something like that. So I think I'm still focused on like the Akron area, and I've been working a buy box there. Also, just looking at the turnkeys that pop up on a regular basis at renting. So I'm watching those and seeing what I can do there. But I think just kind of saving up for the next one. Still looking in Akron. Maybe there's a thing called you guys probably already know about it, but something that I found out recently is a second home mortgage that you can use for a vacation home.
I was about to say, use some creative strategies and get some cost segregation and a second home and your short-term rental, and you start kind of piling everything on top of it. And next thing you know, it's like the video that Zach did about making 100% return on his deal, because you stack all the options together, and next thing you know, you're talking real money.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what I did. Yeah, I used a second home loan on a short-term rental, and this is close to where we live, so we do use it. But we managed it as a short-term rental. We were able to do the accelerated depreciation on it, which, we talked about tax benefits in the beginning of this, and that can be dramatically impactful, right? Because if you can save a significant amount of money on taxes, that's money you'd otherwise give to Uncle Sam, but the IRS incentivizes us to stimulate the economy doing these things as real estate investors. And so that's money that you can actually roll into your next deal. And guess what? Those additional tax benefits and just compounds over time. Let's talk briefly, Dennis, about what's you alluded to this a little bit, like a 10-year horizon possibly, but like if you could fast forward in 5 to 10 years, like what does a potential portfolio look like at that point? Do you have any monetary goals of like X amount of dollars a month, X amount of doors? Like what does kind of that 10-year horizon look like for you?
Well, I think I would like to see about maybe scaling if I can, in a way where, I think, I can't remember where I read this from, but I don't know if maybe it was Brandon Turner. I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody that said, a good goal, like if you need like a focused goal, maybe you should try to do something like this. You buy a single family home, and I might not end up doing this. Maybe we'll just see. But you buy a single family home 1 year, and then the next year you buy a duplex, and then the year after that you buy a triplex and then a quadplex. And you continue to scale like that. That's something I'm kind of interested in, only because I'm trying to say it in the way that makes sense. I guess, like, I'm not trying to hurry things up, but I sort of am. I sort of want to scale quickly, but not too quickly, because I've had some friends from the accountability group and stuff that they scaled way too. They bought like 8 houses in 1 year and didn't stabilize a few of them, and it was tough. It was tough for them for the next year or so. So I think at the 5-year mark, I would consider having a property each year a good goal. I mean, that's what I'm going to try to do. If I have to skip a year and we have to go to 2 years, maybe that's what it'll be. But that's my thought on maybe the amount of properties. As far as a dollar amount, so the good thing about what I have is I have a retirement pension already at a fairly young age, right? I have VA disability, which also provides me with several other benefits, especially in South Carolina. My retirement pay is not taxed in South Carolina, so the federal government still taxes it, but it's not taxed in South Carolina. My kids can go to school for free. They can go to college for free. So there's not really a whole lot of stuff I need to kind of save up for or have. I think really I just need to replace my W-2. Now, how am I going to do that? So you kind of think like, okay, well, let's just say, for example, make $200,000 a year or $150,000 a year, and you're paying however much in tax, probably like $40,000 in taxes or something like that. So we're bringing it down to like 110. So I kind of feel like if I'm getting probably I would say 5,000. That's probably the number that pops in my head, 5,000 a month because it's going to be tax free pretty much. I'm not going to pay anything on it, for the most part, I think, at least from a lot of the stuff that I've seen. So that's sort of my thoughts on the amount of properties, maybe the amount of money per month. I think it's probably attainable. The numbers for this a lot of people say that Turnkey doesn't give you good numbers. That is absolutely not true. I'm getting really good numbers. And, I struggled in the beginning with the numbers because I didn't understand. And then Adam kind of explained it. He broke it down like, this is why we do these numbers. This is how the analysis is done. And then a lot of the stuff I had learned previously didn't go out the window, but I understood it better when it came to Turnkey. Like we can look at Turnkey a little bit differently when it comes to the numbers than we can, something that's going to need some work or whatever else. So my numbers are really good. And I'm even taking out more money for expenses and vacancy than I don't know if you actually do it, Adam, if you do the numbers or not for rent to retirement or used to, but I think I'm taking out more than you guys do for that type of stuff. And I'm still getting probably pretty close to what the number was on the pro forma. So
yeah, that's great to hear. And I think that, there's no problem with having reserves, right? It's a good thing to have, just to have that comfort zone early on. And then you kind of see how things perform over time. And then, the reality is real estate, right? Some things outperform expectations and performance. A lot of them go in line with what we anticipate. Some underperform. That's with any property you buy. But at least in this setting, it's like you're not jumping into something where like you could lose your shirt. If you're rehabbing a deal that goes south or something like that, like it sounds like you're in a network with some people that bought some properties that, they didn't stabilize, and like that could be painful, especially if you have debt that has terms on it, where they have balloon payments. Like there is a very, very risky way to do real estate in the beginning, and we've all heard stories of people filing bankruptcy and having issues, and our goal is to just set people up with a predictable path to start. You know what I mean? So Dennis, as we kind of near the close here, you've been someone that's been on the other side, right? You've been through the academy. I think you told us you're in month 3 now, which is the end, which now you're getting deep into the woods of like, yes, self-directed IRA investing, the deep tax side that you mentioned, insurance, and learning some things there. I want to hit you with a few rapid fire questions because a lot of our audience is at that point where they may or may not have invested previously in real estate. Especially out of state. They're learning about Turkey, learning about investing. They probably share a lot of the same goals that you do, but they maybe haven't taken that first step yet. I want to hit you with rapid fire questions. So try to give us just, a few words or one sentence answer on these, just as a quick rapid fire Q&A, if you don't mind. Give me 3 bullet points, the most impactful, like 3 concepts. These could be just quick nuggets of knowledge or, just general ideas that you've learned from the academy that have been the most impactful in your investing so far.
I would say the analysis of the numbers, the pro forma, that was one of the big ones.
Understanding analysis, okay.
Also, some of the ways to leverage either other people's money or your money that's like in a different type of in a 401k or something like that. That was another big one for me that I had never even thought of, never even knew about. Wouldn't even have fathomed that.
Okay, give me one more.
And then I guess I'll go with the insurance.
What about insurance? Because you said that, but
right, because that's the newest thing on my mind, and I didn't realize that there were so many things you could kind of not manipulate, but kind of, I guess, manipulate, within your insurance tweak within your insurance policy to drastically lower it. I didn't know what the difference was between actual cash value and replacement value. I didn't know any of that type of stuff. That was all brand new to me. So learning that, I could lower my payment. I mean, I already paid for my insurance for this house, but I can, and one of the things that Zach had talked about on the insurance video I was watching was like, you can change it at any time. It's not really, you're not really set into it,
Insurance is prorated. You get a refund for what you haven't used. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think that was the other big thing, was just learning those kind of nuances on insurance. And that might be something simple for a lot of people. Maybe people could just, they could look that up, but I never even thought or knew to look it up. So finding that out in the academy was really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's huge. All those little things matter, right? I mean, maybe it's a few $100 on your first property, but a few $100 over a period of time. And once you multiply that by X amount of houses, like that can be dramatically impactful. It's all about taking nuggets of knowledge, and applying those. What piece of advice would you give to someone who is in that stage, who is a year ago or whatever, who's just looking at real estate? Like if you had to give them just one solid piece of advice beyond just take action, I want to hear a little bit deeper than that, Dennis, but like one piece of advice for that person that's in that analysis paralysis stage, but wants to get into real estate.
Oh man, that's tough because really it is buying a property. Like that is
seriously
I found out that it really is buying a property. But I guess if I could not use that, I would say networking is really a key to it, because if you don't have and specifically not just networking, like finding out what people do, or like, oh hey, you flip in Ohio, can I pick your brain? But actually going to like some sort of an accountability meeting, because then it's not like this rough accountability like, oh, you better have done this thing that you said you were going to do last week. It's more of like, you can talk through it, and then others can give you advice and show you how to go a little bit farther. So I think that would be my big thing, is like really try, even if you're an introvert, even if you only like to use email and texting, you really need to get on some Zoom calls with some folks, get into those accountability meetings. You can find them in a lot of places. It might be just like locally, right? A real estate investing association locally. So
yeah, I love it.
That's
What about the most impactful, surprising, or exciting thing that you know now about real estate in general that you did not know a year ago?
Self-directed IRAs. That's like kind of a game changer for me, because I couldn't touch my thrift savings plan at all. It was just kind of sitting there, and to be able to move that to a self-directed IRA and use that money for certain things was kind of a game changer. It's been and I did something with that self-directed. So I have a Roth Solo 401k, and I did something with that because I wanted the knowledge. I wanted to know how it worked, right? And it's very similar to like buying a turnkey, right? Like I just wanted to do it because I wanted that knowledge. So I did private money lending with my Roth Solo 401k. I did it with Tony J. Robinson, actually. So I'm using that money as just like, it's gone for a year, but it's going to come back to me with more money, and I don't have to do anything. The only thing I had to do is fill some paperwork out. So that was a big thing for me. Never heard of anything like that.
I love that. You're taking all these bits and pieces, right? Like what I've learned in our conversation is, and I don't know if you feel this way. Sometimes it's hard from day to day to notice the difference, but like looking back at where you were, a year ago or even 10 months ago to now, like all the stuff you're talking about, these are like really impactful, useful tools that you can continue to use the rest of your life to build wealth, right? And it's just about learning and applying that knowledge. And that's fantastic. I love that. And from someone coming out of, 20 plus years as a Marine, being retired military, which thank you for your service. I didn't make my way through the full retirement, but that's cool to see applying concepts that you're learning. And I know you pulled things from the military, but these are things that you've self-learned. Like you've taken the initiative. You have to have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit and that hunger, that why. We kind of shared your why with us earlier. So Adam, I don't know if you have any rapid fire questions for Dennis before we let him out of here.
No, I don't have any. I just wanted to congratulate him. It's taking that step, being intentional, giving yourself the education you needed to feel confident while not, paralyzing yourself like you had been for the previous years. Just, I always love whenever people come to us and walk away as investors, whether it's through us or, just because they learned a lot in the academy and bought something. Those stories are always really, really great to hear. So I want to thank you for being willing to come and share your story with us. It's greatly appreciated. For people who are interested in seeing our inventory or checking out the academy, you can head over to renttoretirement.com. That's renttoretirement.com. If you have any questions you want Zach and myself to answer in future shows, please don't hesitate. Email them to podcast@renttoretirement.com. That's podcast@renttoretirement.com. Really appreciate the time you spent educating yourselves today. We'll talk to you on the next episode.
Thanks for watching the Rent to Retirement YouTube channel. Check out some of our other videos, like this one, or this one here.